Welcome back to the process. Time to continue the process. And as always, we're going to do what we do, learn, scout, win, and repeat. I'm your host, Ralph. Now, the divisional round is one of my favorite weekends of the year because this is where the noise starts to thin out a little bit. This is where narratives stop being theoretical and they start getting tested under real pressure. And honestly, this weekend confirmed a lot of what we've been saying all season. From a DFS standpoint, we were dialed in, y'all. 3 lineups cash, and one of them finished less than 2 DraftKings points away from a bigger tournament takedown. That's not frustration, that's validation. That's understanding the slate. That's trusting the process and accepting that at this level, the margins are just razor thin with so few games left. At the same idea showed up across every game, basically, because almost every matchup came down to one question. When everything tightens up, do you actually have enough? Let's start with Buffalo and Denver. Everyone's going to talk about the overtime interception. They always do. They circle the final play and act like that's the whole story. But if you've watched Buffalo for more than 5 minutes over the last few years, you already know the truth. Josh Allen has to do everything. And I mean everything. He's the offense. He's the bailout plan. He's the reason they're in these games in the first place. And when your quarterback has to be perfect just to survive in January, eventually the math catches up to you. And then what happens? Then they fire McDermott, which to me is wild. That's very wild because if anybody should be under the microscope here, it's Brandon Beane, not Sean McDermott, the general manager. Look, Beane has been in that seat since the 2018 draft. That was his first draft. In that time, he's had 56 draft selections, draft picks. And you guys want to know how many of those players have made the Pro Bowl while playing for the Bills? 2 of them, James Cook and Dawson Knox. That's it. Look around that roster. Who's helping Allen? Who scares you? They had to go get Gabe Davis off the street this year. Stephon Diggs is gone. The defense isn't what it used to be. And somehow we're acting like the problem is coaching. Look, I didn't love the way that it ended for Buffalo, but I also don't think firing Sean McDermott fixes the actual issue because until Allen gets real consistent help, this cycle is just going to keep repeating. Furthermore, they go and interview Phillip Rivers for the head coaching job. So between Rivers and Allen, I think there's 5 and 7 playoff runs with no championship rings. So you're going to pair your quarterback with the head coach who hasn't been able to do it 12 times between the two of them. Makes absolutely no sense to me. Denver survived, but let's not confuse survival with dominance. And moving forward, the entire picture changes because of the injury to Bo Nix. Now, Seattle and San Francisco, that one wasn't complicated. If you take away Christian McCaffrey, the 49ers don't have answers, period. Seattle knew it, attacked it, and once that run game got going, once Walker started ripping off chunks, game was over, basically. Seattle dictated the tone, the physicality, the confidence, and that wasn't an upset. That was Seattle reminding everyone what they look like when they're allowed to play fast and downhill. Houston and New England is going to get rewritten the most. And certainly I thought over the past this week it did. Look, people are already crowning, already elevating, already acting like this was, some dominant performance. And look, New England capitalized. Credit where it's due. You got to give them that, right? But context matters here. No Nico Collins, no secondary receiver that, changes coverage, and a quarterback who had back-to-back playoff games filled with bad decisions and fundamental mistakes. I think 7 picks over the last 2 games. Stroud put Houston in bad spots over and over again. And in January, that's all it takes. You don't need to get blown out. You just need to blink twice. You didn't even have to look at the throws to know if they were going to get a chance to be completed or not. You could look at his feet, throwing off the back foot, throwing off wobbly feet. You could just look at that as I was during the game. I, at one point, wasn't even looking at the passes. I'm just looking at his feet, and I'm like, that one's going to be a problem. And thus it was, right? So, then there's the Rams and the Bears. Look, this one played out almost exactly how I thought. Weather, defense, clock control. I'm sorry, Chicago fans. And I had people saying, hey, blah, 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 blah. You wear the jersey, but you won't pick them, and this and that. And people calling me a bandwagon person. Look, this game played out the way that we thought it would. The Rams leaned into what works. Kyron Williams, possession football, and letting Stafford pick his spots. No hero ball, no panic. Chicago fought. And as a Bears fan, yeah, the fourth quarter surge, dude, for a moment, I was like, oh my God, they're going to win this game, right? You thought just maybe, and then reality kicks in. This Bears team lost. Look, they lost to San Francisco and Chicago. They lost to the Rams in Chicago. Where were they going? Where were they going? So let me ask you, why would anybody reasonably expect them to go into Seattle if they couldn't win in those other two scenarios against weaker teams? Why would we think they would be able to go into Seattle, and beat a team like the Seahawks playing like that or put up a match, right? Like, that's not disappointment. That's perspective. The better team won. All right. The Bears are growing. Caleb is getting real January reps. That matters. But January doesn't reward potential. It rewards execution. The better team won. And, the Bears will continue to grow. When you look at the NFC Championship game, this is the teams that I think should be in it. So I'm okay with all of that. And, that's really the theme of the weekend. Not who had the better storyline, not who Twitter wanted to win, but who actually had answers when the game slowed down and the pressure hit. So now we got to move forward. We're into championship weekend. Conference championships are here. And, at this point when the game's condensed, everybody's got more chance to comment. So opinions are loud. You're right. They're allowed. Confidence is dangerous, but we're going to work through it. And that brings us to one of my favorite parts of the show, because it's now time for us to test opinion versus, what we've seen with our own eyes, with a little bit of would you rather for the conference championship week. We're going to cut through the noise, keep it simple, and make decisions the way this slate demands. No overthinking, no paralysis, by analysis. So let's get into it. Would you rather play Cortland Sutton or RJ Harvey? I am not expecting Jarrett Stidham to play completely terrible, but they are not asking him to win this game with his arm. They're going to protect him, balance things out, lean on the run game. So no J.K. Dobbins means we're going to see Harvey, we're going to see McLaughlin, and Harvey's role just, feels more intentional right here, more structure, more opportunity. I'm going to take the touches there versus Cortland Sutton. Next up, would you rather play Stephon Diggs or RJ Harvey? This one's closer, but I'm still taking Harvey. Diggs absolutely has touchdown upside. If he scores, then, that can flip the whole conversation. But I feel much better about Harvey's touch volume than I do about Diggs's, target total, if you will, or catch total, even, if you will. Targets are great. Touches are better. Would you rather play Colby Parkinson or Rashid Shaheed this week? Look, we were right about Shaheed last week. That paid off in a big way. He scored the opening kickoff, and we specifically called out him as being a clutch spot play last week because of special teams. And look how that worked out. So, look, this week, give me Colby Parkinson. It's a matchup thing. If Seattle's selling out to contain the perimeter, those middle of the field windows open up a bit more, and Parkinson can take advantage of that, essentially. Different slate, different answer. Next up, would you rather play Stephon Diggs or Hunter Henry this week? This is tight, but I'll go with Hunter Henry. Not because I'm out on Diggs. I'm not out on Diggs, but Henry feels like the cleaner read this week, more reliable, more baked into the game script. If I'm choosing floor over volatility, it's got to be Henry. Next up, would you rather play Kenneth Walker or Puka Nacua this week? Give me Puka. I think Walker has a tougher path this week. I expect the Rams to crowd the box a little bit early, make things uncomfortable, and force Seattle to beat them through the air. And if that's the case, then that plays into Puka's hands if we're talking about this versus matchup right here. It makes him more attractive, right? One-on-one matchups, soft zones, timing routes, they'll find him. Would you rather play Hunter Henry this week or Kayshon Boutte? I'll take Hunter Henry again. Higher in the pecking order, more predictable usage, less guessing. Next up, would you rather play Kobe Parkinson or Kayshon Boutte this week? Still Parkinson for me. Same logic, role clarity, matchup, and how I expect coverage to tilt, essentially. All right. Would you rather play Devontae Adams this week or Kenneth Walker? Let's say you got a flex spot. Give me Devontae Adams. If Seattle's going to win this game, if Los Angeles is going to win this game, Adams has to be a difference maker. Simple as that. And I think that they know it. This feels like a game where he has to show up, and I expect him to. Next up, would you rather play Stephon Diggs or Ramondre Stevenson this week? This one's tough, but I'm going to take Stevenson. Same argument as earlier, touches over targets. In this one, they just feel more sure, right? So, Diggs can get there, but Stevenson's workload feels more locked in. Next up, would you rather play Cooper Kupp or Kobe Parkinson? Give me Cooper Kupp this week. Call it a revenge game if you want. Call it veteran pride, whatever you want to call it. But if you've got something left, this is the game where you empty the tank. I'm going to take Cooper Kupp. All right, would you rather play Devontae Adams or Ramondre Stevenson? And I'm going to Adams. High leverage moments, big game player. That's where I want my exposure this week. And then finally, would you rather play Hunter Henry or Blake Corum this week? Give me Hunter Henry. I'm not expecting Corum to have a featured role. He's a change of pace guy, maybe some relief snaps, but this is still the Kyren Williams show. People fall in love with late season names every year. This isn't that spot for me. And that is going to conclude our Would You Rather for Conference Championship Week. Decisions made, lines drawn. Now we let the games tell us the rest. Hey, real quick, guys, before we hop back into the football, if you're a founder, operator, or engineering leader, and you're sitting there thinking, we need help, but we don't need another full-time hire, that's literally why Fraction exists. Fraction helps companies bring in senior U.S.-based talent, engineers, product leaders, marketers on a fractional basis, quarter time, halftime, scoped engagements, real operators, real experience, no long-term overhead. Think of it like this. You're not guessing. You're not over-hiring. You're adding exactly what you need when you need it. We've done this across engineering, AI, data, growth, and product for teams that need momentum now, not 6 months from now. If that sounds like you, head to hirefraction.com, take a look, kick the tires, and when you're ready, we'll help you keep your process moving. All right, now let's continue our process. And we go into reload. Only 2 games left, which means that we don't need to rush this. We can actually slow down a bit, look at what matters, and reload with intention, right? So let's do that. Patriots at Broncos. We'll start in Denver. The Patriots have been skating a little bit. They ain't going to like it when I say it. But look, we've talked about this already. Last week, they played a Houston team that was clearly compromised. No Nico Collins. As good as that Houston defense was, Stroud basically handed New England the game with turnovers. The game was still close despite that. I'm talking 21-13 with, half the third quarter left. Now this week, New England gets Denver, and yes, it's Jarrett Stidham, no Bo Nix. On paper, it looks like another soft landing spot, and that's why this game is interesting, because Denver is going to show up ready to play. They're at home, their defense is legit, and Sean Payton is not letting Stidham go out there and self-destruct. I'm sorry, he's just not. Here's the thing people miss with backup quarterbacks. They usually have some chemistry. They usually have timing with the second units, and so comfort with certain receivers, and you can build around that in a very specific game plan, right? And so if for DFS purposes, you're digging into the Denver bag a little bit deeper in terms of wide receivers, that makes a lot of sense this week. I don't expect Stidham to be flashy, but I do expect him to be serviceable. I think he can throw for 200-plus yards and put 2 touchdowns on the board. And most importantly, he's going to play cleaner football than Stroud did last week. He's not throwing 4 picks. Peyton won't allow that. Now flip that around. Houston's defense kept New England in check for long stretches. And like we said, and Denver's defense is right there with them. Maybe the closest comp in the league. Denver believes that they play better defense than Houston. And honestly, on any given day, on any given week, they can. That's why this line feels dangerous. New England -3.5 feels like a trap because it feels like a 3-point game to me. Sure, they can win, but but they could win by 3, right? And so kind of the trap I fell into with the Rams -3.5 last week. Even though I knew they were going to win, I took that -3.5 and they won by 3. But this feels like another tight one to me. Drake May will make plays. He always does. He's been more consistent than Josh Allen this year, believe it or not, but he'll also force one, right? Like he'll turn it over once. That's part of his profile. I'm good with Diggs this week. They're going to force it to him, even against Surtain. One-on-one is fine. I don't have a problem with that. As for the run game, New England just doesn't commit to it enough. If I'm choosing, I'll take Stevenson over Henderson this week, but I'm not expecting a breakout. I mean, but I will have, Ramondre Stevenson well represented. On Denver's side, the run game matters more in this one. No J.K. Dobbins means R.J. Harvey and McLaughlin, and that's intentional. That's how you protect the backup quarterback. Balance, short passes, rhythm touches. Mask the deficiencies, make the defense hesitate. This is not a runway. This is a grind. And so that's what I expect, which is why I have exposure to those two running backs on the Denver side. Stidham gets them close. They don't win this game. Pats get the easy one. Reload. The Rams at Seahawks. Now let's go west. I'm taking the Rams here, and I don't think that's crazy. They've seen Seattle twice already. They see them every year. It's hard to beat a team this familiar when the stakes go up, right? And so it's anybody's ballgame here. Seattle blew them out late in the season too, and that matters, but it's also sharpens the focus. That game wasn't long ago. This isn't some mystery matchup. They just saw each other, right? What I love about the Rams right now is how they're winning. This team has been through it. Hear me out now. Road games, ugly games, weather games. They went to Carolina, almost lost, but winning on the road in the NFL, dude, that's hard. I don't care if it's Carolina or who the hell it is. Winning on the road in the NFL is hard. Winning on the road in the playoffs is brutal. They go to Chicago, -2 wind chill. Caleb Williams playing out of his mind. And what do? They survive. They did exactly what we actually said they would last week. Control the clock, lean on Kyren Williams. Don't ask Stafford to be Superman. That is character building at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, they found ways to lose games this year. That Philly game early in the year still freaking bothers me, for sure. They should have won it. But what matters is now that they're finding ways to win meaningful games down the stretch. Kyren Williams is the key again. You don't beat Seattle in the track meet. You keep their offense off the field. Outside zone runs, screens. Don't just slam it up the middle. The defense is too good for that. Mike McDonald will have those guys ready to defend that. And then there's Puka. Puka is Puka. One-on-one, soft zones, timing routes. They'll find him. They'll figure out how to find him, right? Stafford doesn't need to win this game. He just can't lose it, period. I'm also interested in Devonta Adams this week. This is the moment for veteran receivers. This is the light. This is the stage. You don't save what's left in the tank for week 7. You save it for this right here. He can still be a difference maker. Seattle was stretched defensively. Puka, Adams, Parkinson underneath. Look, that spacing helps Kyren Williams even more. Listen to me. And on the other side, we know who Sam Darnold is. He'll push it. And when you push it, mistakes come with it. If I'm the Rams defensively, I'm stacking underneath. Take away the run, take away the easy stuff, make it look tempting to go over the top and let Darnold try to beat you there. That's how you get turnovers. That's how you beat Seattle. I'm taking the Rams in this one. They've been on the road all playoffs. They're familiar with this opponent. They're built for this kind of game. That's what is going to happen, in my opinion, this week. That's my reload for these two games. And clear paths. Now we just got to let the execution decide the rest. And hey, really, another quick break here real quick. Listen, guys, if you manage a dev team, engineering manager, PM, VP of engineering, CTO, you already know this feeling. You're accountable for delivery, but the signals on what's actually happening inside the sprint are fuzzy. Velocity looks fine until it isn't, right? Deadlines slip, but nobody can tell why. That's why we built DevHawk. Over at Fraction, DevHawk plugs directly into your existing tools, Jira, GitHub, GitLab, and gives you real objective visibility into execution, not surveillance, not micromanagement, just clean signals, throughput, blockers, estimation, accuracy, momentum. It's like film study for engineering teams. Right now, DevHawk is live with a free trial. No sales pressure, no commitment. You can literally see how your team is operating. If you want clarity instead of guesswork, head to devhawk.ai, grab a free seat, and if you want help setting it up, just reach out. Be happy to walk you through it myself. All right, let's get back to it. And of course, we've got to talk DFS this week for our conference championship round. We're going to be salary aware to some extent, but really, you just play what you want this week. Before we get into the names, we got to talk slate dynamics, though. 2 games, condensed player pool, which means pricing, you know, like I said, can be a little bit more fluid, if you will. This is one of those slates where cash games just weird fast because the safety net of a cash game is really something that is ideal for a larger slate. When you have 2 games, you know, is a lot of overlap right there, right? So everybody lands in the same places, ownership condenses, and the edge disappears. Now, tournaments, though, very winnable. This is a slate where you mix, you match, you let salary, flexibility, unlock paths that other people probably aren't building, right? So with that in mind, quarterback strategy, look, let's play them all, guys. Hell, play them all. Quarterback is simple this week. Stafford 6,300, Drake May 6,100, Sam Darnold 55, and Stidham at 4,500. Every one of these guys has a real path. Stafford gives you stability and correlation. May gives you consistency and dual threat upside. Darnold gives you, ceiling of Seattle pushes, and Stidham is the $4,500 unlock at the bottom. And he's also probably going to be, I'm hoping, the least owned, right? And so in the cash game scenario, I would definitely pay him over the other guys because I'm just trying to steer away from what other people are doing. That salary matters because when you save there, you can do whatever you want with the other part of the lineups, which again, this week, probably not as much of an issue. On this slate this small, though, I'm picking one quarterback. I'm not picking one quarterback is the point and calling it a day. I'm just going to rotate exposure, right? And let the Bills dictate the play. And so you can get all different kinds of variations in there. Now, running back pool, this is where, roster structure can kind of take form. Kyron Williams should anchor what we're doing at $6,500. He can be the foundation. Everything the Rams want to do runs through him, I believe. He's not cheap, but he's worth paying for. And I do like Ramondre Stevenson. It's not flashy, but reliable usage. He fits the balanced build really well in a game that we expect New England to win, right? And so they're winning. They're thinking of running clock in the end. And so you're thinking of running clock with running. NFL teams typically don't, put an overwhelming amount of trust in rookies as they get closer and closer to the Super Bowl, right? Because these guys have just never been there before. They haven't experienced that. To not even have NFL experience and to be dependent on in the conference championship and the Super Bowl is wild, right? And so I'm just leaning Ramondre Stevenson, for that reason, essentially. Again, not flashy, but reliable. RJ Harvey, $5,900. This is a key piece for me. This will be a cash game piece this week. No Dobbins changes the equation, right? So he has to be more involved, and that salary puts him in the sweet spot. But also, Jaleel McLaughlin, $4,400. This is where things get interesting. Sean Payton isn't running one guy into the ground. If Denver scores, McLaughlin can absolutely be a part of that. And that price gives you flexibility. You don't need all of them, but you do need to understand which of these wide receivers enables you to do whatever else you want to do with your lineup. The wide receiver pool, okay, you can decide how aggressive you want to be this week. Puka Nacua at $9K if you want to pay up, and you should. Don't overthink it. Puka is there, and you should decide how you build around that, right? So have a lineup there. But Jackson Smith and Jigba, high ceiling tournament option if Seattle leans pass heavy. So that's a leverage pick against the Puka players. Devontae Adams, 6K. This is one of my favorite play. Or you could stack that game, right? You could stack that game, and you actually can't afford to put both of them in if you wanted to. Had to be, lean on the running backs, though. This is one of my favorite prices on the slate. Devontae Adams is 6K because he's a veteran in a big moment. If he hits, if he breaks the slate, it's relative to the cost, right? And so that's why I like that one. Stephon Diggs, $5,800, volatile, but the salary keeps him very much in play, is what I think. You don't want to fade him completely on the 2-game slate. Can't do that. And then we have this value layer, right, where I'm looking at your Troy Franklin's, $4,700, Marvin Mims, $4,200. And I'm sorry, I know my graphic got a little cut off there, so you have to pay special attention here for the end of it. Rashid Shaheed, $4,100. Cooper Kupp, $3,800. Demario Douglas, $3K. Lil Jordan Humphrey, $3,400. These are not throwaway clicks, even though some of them are going to make it into the graphic. These are the pieces that let you fit in Puka, Kyren, or double stud builds, right? And so you rotate them, you correlate them. Don't just lock that in. Use it as you deem fit, right? So tight end is going to be a price-driven decision this week. You just pick the guy whose salary fits with where you land once you've built everything else, right? If you've got the room, Hunter Henry at the top, $4,800, safest role, most predictable usage. But from there, you can go Kobe Parkinson, $3,500. This fits the game plan that the Rams may be using that I think perfectly, right? Especially if Seattle brackets the outside. Evan Ingham, $3,300 for Denver. Low salary, low ownership, real involvement. That's tournament juice. Backup quarterback, right? Teams may be, New England may be willing to pressure him, right? Try to get the backup a little rattled. If you're being pressured, you got to get the ball out quick. So we talked about RJ Harvey and screen passes and dumps and stuff like that. But the other way to get the ball out quick is that tight end, right? And so Evan Ingram has to be in the conversation this week because he is the blanket, if you will, the security blanket underneath right there. But it's not a one tight end slate. It's a build dependent slate, right? As we usually treat it anyway. So we move on to defense. Defense matters more than people think on small slates. So you got to get this right. If you notice, I'm just, I'm going to pick 3. I'm not picking the Seattle one here. Largely just because I expect the Rams to take care of the football, and I want to try to get to where I can get turnovers this week. And so Patriots, 3,500, Rams, 2,800, Broncos, 2,500. And Broncos is the team that I think is worth the money at 2,500, but you shouldn't have to save if you don't want to this week. I just think these are interchangeable, right? But the Broncos are interesting if you're betting on chaos or turnovers. Rams give you that mid-range flexibility. Patriots fit controls scripts, basically. So I'm not locking defense. I'm matching it up to my lineup story, right? And so you can go for quarterback, wide receiver, running back, do what you want to do. And this week, particularly, you should be able to just fill in tight end and defense with a couple of the suggestions that I've given you pretty easily, right? So, that's the DFS for this week, guys. That's the way I see it. And, this slate isn't about finding the lineup. It's about understanding how salaries unlock paths and giving yourselves options for various lineups, right? The cash is thin, tournaments are live, and the winners will be the ones who let the slate breathe. So play the quarterback, spin where it matters, use salary to tell a story. That's DFS for conference championship week. Now we got to hop into our bets, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and clean house a little bit with housekeeping here. We want to do that so we can get out and cover our bets here. So quick framing. These are individual positions, not parlays. Each one stands on its own logic. 2 games, condensed board. That's where you get selective, right? So let's start in Denver. Patriots at Broncos. RJ Harvey over 38.5 rushing yards. This one is about game script, not explosiveness. I've explained to you guys what I think is going to happen. So that bet fits right in right there. No Bo Nix, backup quarterback, home playoff game. Denver is not asking Jarrett Stidham to drop back 40 times. They're asking him to manage the game. And that means leaning on the run early. And I think maybe often, right? No J.K. Dobbins. Those carries don't disappear. Harvey doesn't need a breakaway run here. He needs steady touches, first down, second down, bleed the clock type stuff. That's it. At 38.5, that's an accumulation bet. And in this spot, that's exactly what Denver wants. Ramondre Stevenson, under 3.5 targets. This is counterbalanced. Denver does a good job of closing down the short middle of the field. And more importantly, this Patriots offense is not designed to funnel everything underneath anymore. Drake May's aggressive, sometimes too aggressive. When he's pressured, he's more likely to force throws outside than he is to check it down, is what I've noticed. So at 3.5 targets, I'm betting on the offensive intent, not player talent right there. Jarrett Stidham, over 0.5 passing touchdown. So, like, just got to get a passing touchdown. This is not a Stidham breakout bet. This is a one-drive bet, to be sure. One play-action look, one red zone possession, one busted coverage on a short field. Sean Payton will manufacture at least one opportunity. He always does. Stidham needs to he doesn't need to outplay anybody. He just needs to throw one touchdown. And yes, he will play better than what C.J. Stroud gave Houston last week. So I think he can score one touchdown. All right, if we look at Rams and Seahawks, we shift over to Seattle. Kenneth Walker under 112.5 rushing and receiving yards. This is a disciplined play. The Rams are trying to erase. They aren't trying to erase Walker. They're trying to limit efficiency. And so stack underneath, as I said before, take away easy yards. Invite Darnold to push the ball vertically. Walker can still get touches, but breaking this number requires chunk plays, and that's what the Rams are schematically built to prevent. We don't need Walker to disappear. You just need him to stay contained if you're the Rams, right? And so that's the way I think they look at it, which is why I want to take that bet. Kobe Parkinson over 25.5 receiving yards. This is a structure bet. Seattle will roll coverage towards Puka. They'll live with the tight end, right? And so Parkinson has quietly become, this reliable option in the intermediate middle part of the field, especially against zone. At 25.5 yards, you're not asking for volume, ladies and gentlemen. You're asking for a few conversions, just a couple of. This is a find the soft spot, move the chains type of play. Cooper Kupp, rushing or receiving touchdown, period. Just one. This is a veteran moment. Conference championship, familiar opponent, high leverage. You do the math. This is where guys like Cooper Kupp still matter. Red zone option routes, motion looks, design touches near the goal line. He doesn't need a big stat line to pull this one off. He needs one moment. And this is the exact kind of game where those moments show up. I get excited about this because they're giving us the plays, the picks, right? This is the pick. Devontae Adams, over 0.5 rushing or receiving touchdown. So rushing or receiving touchdown for him. Same logic. Yeah, different jersey. If Seattle's going to win this game, Devontae Adams has to be involved in a decisive way, not just targets, not just usage, impact. They will scheme him looks. They will isolate him. They will give him a chance to finish a drive. At 0.5, you're betting on pedigree and stakes, right? So that's it. No parlays, no chasing, clear positions, clear logic, 2 games. Let the board come to you, ladies and gentlemen. Let the board come to you. But that's it for this one. Conference championship weekend is here, and now is real. No more hiding. No more we'll see what happens. You got the board. You got the matchups. You know where the pressure points are now because of this episode. From here on out, it's all about trusting your eye, not the noise. Don't listen to the talking heads on TV. They'll steer you the wrong way every time. Seeing the game before it happens, understanding why things break the way they do. That's what we're doing over here. This is part of the season that I love the most because the answers are all right there if we're willing to slow down and actually look. When there's 12, 13, 14 games, we can't do that, right? But when there's 2 games, you can slow down and look. We'll be back to break it all down once the dust settles, the good, the bad, and everything we can learn from it heading into the Super Bowl. Until then, enjoy the games, enjoy the chaos, and remember why we do this in the first place, guys. We learn, scout, win, repeat. Peace.
I daddy killed this beat.